morning and welcome to this webinar. This is a great decision you've made, probably the best 1 hour that you're going to spend learning from the expert himself. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Mamta Malhotra, and I'm privileged to be hosting this webinar on behalf of Kelvin. I head organizational development for a large global organization based out of Bangalore, and I am really a development specialist at heart. Joining me today is Mohan Rangan. The both of us are logging in from Bangalore this morning. Mohan is our expert, coach, and guide who is going to be walking us through this very interesting BreakFree journey today, and hopefully continue to partner with us as we move on. Mohan is a veteran of the industry with over 30 years of experience, which includes leading global organizations at the helm as their CEO. An IIM alumni, he actually quit the rat race at the peak of his career to break free, and ever since then he's been donning several hats as an executive coach, director, and on the board of several companies. Who better than Mohan to lead us on this journey, learning from him on how to break free. Welcome, Mohan.
Thank you.
While my introduction is just a mere trailer, like we say in Hindi, picture abhi baki hai, may I invite you to start by sharing with us a story of what got you to the point of breaking free?
Sure, Mamta. Thank you so much for having me at this webinar. A very warm welcome to all of us who have joined us in the webinar. I really hope the next 1 hour will be as fruitful as you hoped it to be. My own journey, I think, started 1983 when I joined the IT industry. And over the next about 24 years, worked in several companies and sort of grew in the industry itself. Along the journey, I had the opportunity to lead two of India's well-known listed companies. And that gave me a lot of satisfaction, a lot of experience. But like many of you do when you're at a job, three things I think sort of bother you. One, of course, you always run short of time. The second is there's a lot of travel involved, so day in and day out, you're always on the road. And this leads, to my mind, a lot of trouble with family, friends, because you never seem to have enough time for them. So having put in these years and then coming across these three aspects of travel, time, and trouble, it struck me that it's time to probably do something else. Like everything else that we decide, it's usually a trigger point that gets us in our journey. And to me, the trigger point came when one day my mother came to me and said, can I have an appointment with you to get some time with you? And it set me thinking that if it's your own mother who has to take time from you, then what are you doing with your own life? There doesn't seem to be time for anything worthwhile. So that set me off on this journey of breaking free. I hope in the next half hour I can exchange some of my thoughts with you, help you on your journey if you have, looking forward to breaking free, and maybe exchange some ideas of how it could be done.
We're really looking forward to that because the three T's that you talked to us about, time, travel, and trouble, is kind of swords hanging over all our heads. What I hear you say is be cognizant and recognize when these trigger points cross the optimal. Having spotted that for yourself, how did you really make this change? How did you take this leap of faith?
I think a few things could be done to plan for this change better. The first thing, as we all know, when we want to do something, the best thing is to set a deadline for it, a time and a date. So one of the things that I decided early on when I wanted to go on my own was to set a particular date for it. I remember I had started out about 500 days before I actually decided to go on my own, and had a downward calendar counting on to those dates. So every day I would get up in the morning and then say there are 480 days or 450 days left, etc. This sort of gets you a certain focus to that ultimate goal of breaking free. The second thing I think I got as a very valuable piece of advice is a customer of mine who told me that if you really want to go on your own, why don't you try and experiment what it is that you want to be doing to make sure that it works well for you. A lot of things look very green from one side of the fence, but only when you try it, you actually come to know reality, right? So one of the things that I always wanted to do was to teach, and I said that once I break free, I'll probably teach. So I decided that I would take on a weekend teaching assignment, even while I work, to try and experiment whether teaching suited what I had in mind. I did that for a few months and realized that this is what I wanted to do. And that gave me more confidence to break free. Finally, of course, I think the biggest thing that you really have to plan for is finance. Because at the end of the day, we don't realize it, but when you're working, your monthly paycheck is assured. Every month on the 30th or the 31st, it hits your bank account. But when you're on your own, cash flow can be a challenge. So one of the strong reasons I think one should look for before you break free is to look at your own finances and make sure that you have enough to last you between 12 to 24 months. Now remember, this particular webinar is not only aimed at people in the IT industry, it's aimed across industries, across multiple domains. And why I'm saying between 12 to 24 months, depending on the type of industry you are, it takes that much time to establish yourself, get a name, and generate enough business. So you want to make sure that you have enough money to take you through that period, even if there is no monthly paycheck. And in case, God forbid, it does not work, you still have the option to get back into corporate life. And your future employer is unlikely to get too worried with a break of that period. So I would say, to sum it up, three things are critical. The first thing is have a trial of what you want to be doing. Second is to sort of plan it financially. And third is set a deadline, a date and a time and work towards it.
I think that's a great recipe that you poured out for us. But I'm already beginning to believe this is not for the faint-hearted. All change comes with two sides to the coin. Let's start by talking about the positives and what will really egg me on this journey.
Okay, I may be biased here because I have found it to be wonderful after breaking free. But I'll try and give you both sides of the coin as you asked for. Maybe start with the positives. I think the first thing is you get a lot of flexibility with your time. You can manage your time better. You can set aside time to spend with family, to spend with friends, and more importantly for some of us, to spend time with ideas, hobbies, thoughts that are dear to us. So some of you may be interested in pursuing art, some of you may be pursuing a hobby, some of you may be interested in a social entrepreneurship activity. It gets you that time to set aside and do that. So that's a huge positive. The second thing I think one realizes when you're on your own, you're really on your own, which means you have to make sure that you're good at what you do. What this calls for is an enormous amount of effort to become good at what you do. And the positive of that is it brings about a lot of confidence. So for example, if you're going to do a presentation or conduct a workshop, you're going to work out every bit of that logistics, making the presentation, planning the workshop, looking at the material to be prepared. And that confidence that you can do it gives you enormous strength to handle whatever you want. And I think the third most important aspect is you get to learn all the time. We don't realize it, and without any demeaning factor to an organization. In an organization, because of transactional pressures, you rarely get a chance to learn and go forward. When you're on your own, you are either forced to or you want to learn, and therefore you keep building up your repository of knowledge. And that becomes very useful when you take on assignments. So to me, I think the positives come because you're learning all the time, because you are trying to master every aspect of what you do. So that gives you enormous strength and it gives you a flexibility of time.
Well, this sounds like a win-win solution, and I'm already wondering why I haven't done that already. So help me put the brakes on, because not every change is easy, not every change is as smooth as that. What are some of the challenges that I should be prepared for?
I think there are a couple of different. I think the biggest is finance. you will not have that monthly paycheck, as I said. So you need to be aware of that. You need to plan expenses. Some of us have monthly EMIs. You need to plan how that can be handled. So you need to be aware that because there's no monthly paycheck, you need to plan. I wouldn't say it's a negative, but it's something that you can plan for. The second thing is, at times you will find situations where you will have to handle your own ego. There could be times when you approach an organization and you would be dealing with people maybe who would otherwise be one or two levels below you. And they are your customer today. So the roles have changed, the circle has come one full round. So therefore you have to swallow your ego and handle them as customers. And that, believe me, is not very easy. The third negative, which I sort of learned after I got into it, and that's what I really like to share, is that you need to watch out for the impact on family, friends, and near ones. The biggest example I found was with my son. I remember he was in college when I broke free. And till the time that I was in a corporate job, the answer to the question, what is your father doing, was very easy for him. But now that I was on my own, he found it difficult to answer that question. Does he say that my father is a consultant? I'm not very sure what my father does. Those answers can be very confusing and very traumatic, especially for children. So I would suggest, when you know that this is a negative, sit down with family, sit down with close friends, tell them exactly what you want to do, get their buy-in, and make sure that the communication that you want to do is clear. So to me, negatives would really be finance, manage the finance, manage your ego, and manage the communication to the outside world.
You couldn't be more right, Mohan, where a change like this is not just about you, but your immediate family is going to go through, will need to manage the change along with you. So they can either be with you, supporting you, or they could resist it. And it's very important to bring them on board as soon as you can. You're not alone in this journey.
Absolutely.
It really rings a bell for some of us. So I'm very confident by now there are a lot of thoughts that have already gotten triggered off. So why don't you keep talking to us, interacting with us, share with us your journey. If you've already broken free or you're trying to, you could write in onto our Twitter handle, that is at KelpHR, or onto our Facebook page, GoKelp. Keep talking to us so that we can understand where you are at this point in this journey. Moving on, Mohan, it sounds like you're really enjoying this turning point that you took in your career. Looking back, what have been your learnings, or what would you have done differently?
Okay, before I take this up, there's one interesting point I want to say. That, when I was talking about the negatives, a lot of people would have asked me, is the fear of getting the customer, isn't that the biggest negative? I must tell you that there is a lot of work to be done, irrespective of the industry. And I'm not talking only of the IT industry, I'm talking across all industries. Many organizations are looking to engage with freelancing people who know what they're doing. The reason is quite simple. Today, senior professionals are expensive as employees. And if you don't have full work for them, it's going to be extremely difficult to justify on your P&L. So a lot of companies are trying to outsource, trying to engage with consultants or engage with people when they really want them. And therefore, to my mind, there is a lot of work out there that's available. That would not be a negative at all in terms of handling or getting customers. Now, you did ask me, how does one go about making it a success? The first thing that I did was to try and find myself an anchor customer. So obviously, one does that by perhaps going back to the organization that you broke free from. Now, I'm assuming that you're breaking free from the organization with your bridges intact, which is very important, building good relationships. And you can go back to the organization and say that, can I work out an arrangement that I handle a particular assignment for you for a period of 6 months or a year, and work out a certain arrangement for that. Now, what it does, it gives you a couple of things. One, it gives you some financial stability for some time. Second is it gives you a marketing platform to go to other customers because you already have an anchor customer. The second thing that I think you must do is to network. I remember I used to get calls on my mobile from unknown numbers, and I would call back. And when I call back, I would find that it's a customer who's heard about the services I provide and wanted to talk to me. Now, if I had ignored that number, I would have probably lost that contact forever. Those of you on LinkedIn, I would suggest use that very well. Try and reach out to platforms that are available there that can put you in touch with customers and network all that you can. And the third thing I think is make your pricing and your ability to deal with customers as simple as possible. Now, here I would like to give you an example of how I went about pricing, and some of you could use it. Let's say you are a middle-level professional in an organization. And for starters, let me assume that you have a cost to company salary of about 18 lakhs, which means you are earning about 1,50,000 a month. Now, very roughly, we tend to work about 150 hours a month, which means the company is paying you about 1,000 rupees a day, 1,000 rupees an hour. Now, when you are going on your own, you obviously cannot get work all the time. So I would put a factor of safety of maybe between 2 to 3 times. Let's say we put a factor of safety of 3, which means if I were looking forward to charging for an assignment at that level of a professional, I would say you look to work your costing out at about 3,000 rupees an hour. Let's say somebody asks you for a 4-hour workshop. You might want to tell the customer to get you off the ground that I will charge you 15,000 rupees for that workshop. See how things go. And once you build up a certain capability and a certain reputation in the market, you can always up the pricing that you do. Don't let pricing come in the way of building up certain volumes. Be flexible about pricing and also make sure that you make engaging with the customer as easily as possible. Some of us get stuck into things like let's work out an agreement, let's work out a proper document, a purchase order, etc. Let's, for a moment, tell the customer, let's get going on the job, and that can be done later. And believe me, most customers that I've dealt with, they get the paperwork done later. But the job gets done, which is what most organizations are interested in.
And that actually was the one reason why they reached out to you to begin with, because it's easier, it's simpler. So what I hear you say is don't complicate it. Let that continue to be your USP. Continue to make it easy for them to want to work.
Absolutely. Because remember, some of the large organizations who perhaps will compete with you for an assignment are the ones who are going to insist on a lot of such paperwork. And that may frustrate the organization. So if I were to sum it up, if you want to make it a success, 3 things again. First, make sure you get an anchor point. And no better than your current organization to get an anchor point. Second, get your pricing in order. And the third, make it easy for the client to do business with you. Don't complicate life for the client. The client has enough headaches as it is to worry about. So get onto their side and see how they can do it.
That's fantastic. And I think the one thing that stays with me is network, network, network. Don't burn your bridges. There could be some of our participants today who are looking at taking the lead. Make sure you're leaving with bridges intact. What struck me while you were talking about this woman is this really seems to be like I'm the CEO of a company called me.
Absolutely, I think you did very well.
Yeah, I'm the CEO. So the question that I have to you is how do I make this enterprise a profitable enterprise?
Okay, so I think a couple of things. One is you have to remember that even as you're delivering, you also need to be marketing yourself. And the best way to marketing yourself is to get references from your existing clients, because no better marketing executives than your existing clients. Also, as you rightly said, network. Put yourself into platforms, exchanges, positions there where your services get known to more and more customers. Get the pricing right, and once you do that, I think you're getting yourself to be more profitable. Now, there will be some challenges. And I want to address that because there have been times when I have also struggled. It's not all been easy. I mean, at this moment, I would say that's all. It's something that I would still very much recommend to people. But there are some challenges that you have to know. The first thing is a lot of us tend to think that the bigger the name of the client, the better the client. Not necessarily true. There are very many big names there who might want to engage with you, but their very systems and processes may take so much of time that it's sometimes tough to engage with you. So have a mix of client. Maybe have some small and medium enterprises who find it easier to engage with you. Try and get to them. I can also tell you that the smaller enterprises tend to be quicker in paying, making your payments, because they have less processes to deal with. So have a mix of clients. The second thing is make sure that you're not let up the garden path. What I mean here is there will be clients who will call you for meeting after meeting to discuss about an assignment. Now, while doing a couple of meetings absolutely is essential, I think at some stage you must know when to drop a client that is going nowhere. You should be able to step away from what I would call useless activities that are taking away your time and focus on clients who can actually deliver you the business out there. And the third most important aspect to me is making sure what you commit you deliver. And a lot of times when you are doing your own, you tend to overcommit. You tend to take on clients who have similar deadlines. You tend to have positioning appointments with clients is a problem. Try and ensure that you don't run into that problem. Because there is an attraction, there is a tendency to overbook your time. Because you worry what happens if I don't get work, right? And therefore you want to make sure, especially as you get more successful, that you don't overbook your time. You might end up with two problems. One, unhappy customers. And more importantly, you may start burning yourself in all sides of the candle. And that's precisely the reason why you broke free in the first purpose, right? The first reason you broke free was to give yourself more time. So balancing that, I think, becomes critical. A few logistical aspects you must take care. One is, I think, you need to manage your infrastructure. So I would suggest a home office. There's no need to spend too much, but make sure you have simple things like a good computer, back up all your data. If you're somebody working in other industries, make sure that you have information, access to books, access to databases that are useful for your particular line of business. Make sure you have office facilities available, like a good printer, making sure that you have a reasonably decent space in which to operate. You could call clients home and still work with them without any problem. Take care of those logistics before you go ahead.
So it really sounds like you are the marketing manager, the HR manager, the admin manager. You're pretty much even the team manager for everyone.
Vice president to the T-boy. Right?
You're the vice president to the T-boy, but the pride lies in this is your company, this is your brand, this is your
absolutely.
This is really your enterprise that you're building, a legacy in many ways. Mohan, I can't but help it. I'm already eager. I can't wait to make that jump myself. And I really hope my boss is not listening to this. But if I were to take that jump, what should I be prepared for?
I think you should be prepared for a couple of things. One, clients often feel that they owe you now.
Right.
So the trouble that happens is the client calls you and they will demand your time because they feel you're on your own. So why not do this assignment right away for me? You should be able to balance between clients. You should be able to assert yourself and tell the client that I can attend to it on so and so time. You should be able to manage that. The second, I think, which is important is you should be able to be disciplined in the way you manage your work. Very often clients need timesheets monitoring the time that you're spending with them, especially if you work on a time and material project or you bill by the hour. So then every time you have an interaction with the client, you need to come back, you need to document that, you need to make sure you prepare a timesheet. At the end of the month, make sure that you send your invoices for whatever assignments you've done,
Right.
and most importantly, make sure that you follow up the payment. Because remember, there is no commercial department like in an organization that does that, right? You have to do that. So though I have had a couple of friends of mine who do a great job of doing the assignment, bill the client, and then forget to pay, follow up the payment. A gentle reminder here and there, I think, is critical to make sure that you keep going.
So, Mohan, it takes a lot of discipline, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it's not for, like I mentioned earlier, it's not for the faint-hearted. When you're getting into this, it can't be half-hearted. You're pretty much putting all of yourself out there. Just the last thought, how is it different then from really running, being a part of a
Being a
larger,
job.
being
Yeah.
a job? So what is that one big difference that continues to convince yourself every morning that this is worth it?
I think the biggest primer to this, when you work in an organization, the organization is the primer. The organization tells you, come in by 9 o'clock, work on this assignment, do this deliverable, come over for this review meeting, present. Everything is driven by the organization. Here, you drive it. You become the organization. So perhaps one way to look at it is to look at yourself with two hands. One, as the person or the organization that motivates you to do what you are doing, and the other that does it. So a good way to be to start every day by saying, as an organization, what is it that I'm expecting of myself today? I need to answer to so and so client. I need to submit this deliverable. I need to finish this. I need to read this, and then make sure you execute that.
Right.
And once you're able to do this sort of two-rolled approach, I think it works very well.
Absolutely. Now, I'm, like I keep saying, I'm brimming over with ideas. Part of it continues to scare me, but I think most of it is I can't wait to at least test the waters. I'm pretty sure our viewers have similar questions, and we've already got a list of them that have come in through Twitter.
Sure, I'd love to
So,
hear that.
if you're comfortable, can we get started with the interaction? Excellent.
Absolutely.
So I've got a fantastic start question from a stay-at-home mother, Jean. I hope I've got that right. She talks about what about people who've quit a while ago, woman, and they don't really have bridges, or the bridges have dried up. They don't really know where to start. What would you say would be the one or two good places for them to start this journey from?
So you see, if you have quit a while back, and a lot of people would like to quit, take care of things at home or other activities, and then get back to remember very useful is that organizations don't mind a break when they engage with somebody as a consultant. When you go for a job and you have a break of 1 year, everybody tends to ask you, what did you do in that 1 year? But when you go for a consulting assignment, people do not ask you that question. So therefore, you don't have to be defensive. You just have to say that I was working in a particular assignment and I took time out to, maybe their family or get my son off to college or whatever. And now I have this expertise which I would like to offer you. And I have not found organization questioning your past. I think what they question or want to check out is your expertise as today you stand. How good are you and what you're able to deliver. If that matches what you're charging them, I think organizations are quite prepared to engage.
Excellent. So, Jean, there you go. Don't be embarrassed about the break. Go ahead. There are new bridges to be built. But I have a related question with that. What do BreakFreeers, and that's really the word that I'm going to use
That's a
now.
nice one.
What do they do in a situation where the pipeline is dry, no bridges, pretty much starting from scratch? Maybe they move to another city, right? And they don't have connects out there. What do people like those do?
So you could do a couple of things.
Yes.
One is you could look for physical forums where likely customers are going to be present. So let's say you are in the automobile industry. You have worked in an automobile company for say 20, 25 years, and then you have moved to another city, and now you want to do something on your own. Now, therefore, look for a forum where, let's say, small manufacturing companies gather. And there could be forums like, a CII forum, or there could be forums of a local manufacturing association. Go and attend some of those meetings. Don't attend the first meeting expecting to walk away that you'll get an order and you'll immediately start working. Just go there and mingle with people. Let people know this is what you've done and this is what you plan to be doing. Sooner or later, when you don't push yourself too hard, and this is critical, if you try and oversell yourself, customers back off. Customers actually come to you when you sell yourself right. When you position yourself that way, inevitably customers try to reach back to you and say, would you be able to do something like this? The moment they reach out to you, make sure that you complete the loop. Reach out to them, look at the job, even if it means that you have to go a little bit out of your way, you have to learn a new area, you have to price it a little lower, just get on to doing it. Because I can tell you, customers get customers. The challenge is really only in the first one or two customers.
It also goes back to something that you talked about earlier, network.
Absolutely. It goes back.
It goes back then. So continue to find avenues. There are enough and more forums, especially in today's day and age, where there are a lot of self-groups that come together.
And so many electronic forums available.
Exactly.
You have social networks, you have platforms now available that bring professionals and organizations that need help together. Make sure you register on that, make sure you keep your profile updated, and sooner or later you will find assignments coming.
Fantastic. Mohan, this is a question that I've actually also been wanting to ask. So thank you, Deepika, for asking that on our behalf. There are a lot of us on this group today who really want to know the true answer. Are you happy or do you regret giving up that wonderful CEO's role? Honestly,
I'll be very honest. There have been times when I would have probably regretted it. There would be times when, let's say, I see another CEO come on television or talk about what they have achieved. There might have been times when one might go back and say, what could I have done if I were there? And for each of you out there, maybe there might be occasional times of regret in your own professions. So, for example, if you are heading learning and development and then you broke free, and then you see somebody else, getting an award for a learning and development head, you might feel, what would you have been able to do? But those are far and in between. I mean, they are not really the norm. Most of the time, you feel extremely happy, you have the flexibility. You get a lot of appreciation. I mean, the best appreciation you can get is when a customer comes back to you and says that it's a job well done. Believe me, it is not so much the payment that they make to you, but it's the appreciation of the work. So I would be very honest to say that there will be a few occasions when you might regret, but in a percentage scale, more than 90% of the time, I have felt extremely happy with what I've done.
What if I may add on? Remind yourself every time you're at a crossroad like that and you're looking at TV and one of the peers has written about it, remind yourself why you made this decision. So go back to the triggers. If the triggers were strong enough, you will never regret the decision.
And I think the other thing, which I don't know if it happened to most of you, sleeping at night is not a problem at all. A lot of times when you are in a job that manages thousands of people, it's tough to really switch off.
I agree.
Whether you are going to sleep or it's a Sunday, there are constant problems running behind your head. But when you're in your own, all the problems are usually solvable by you. Because you are both the cause of the problem and the solution. So if you're able to handle it in that way, I think you find sleeping at night very much simpler.
You're not going to dream of your boss anymore.
No.
Oh my God, that's
You're your own
even
boss.
better reason now.
Absolutely. I don't know what your boss will say to that, but
I have a fantastic question here from a colleague who mentions, how do I manage family, especially when they don't like me stepping out for work?
okay, that's a tough one because usually I get the question, how do I manage family who find me staying at home too often, right? So let me answer both. I think if the problem is the family complaining that you are at home too often, my suggestion would be that create a small physical space within your own house where when you have to work, you enter that space and you work there. So you stay out of their way and don't interfere too much with them. Don't change the way things are done at home and try and do everything that somebody else would do. Because then you're asking for trouble by stepping onto somebody else's shoes. But create a separate area that you can walk through and work. Now, if the problem is that you are not available at home, that you're constantly on travel, then I'm afraid we are going back to trying travel and trouble. Which means, again, you'll have to step back and say, am I overreaching myself even when I've broken free? You probably need to start balancing once again. Because what's happened is the very solution that you sought for your problem is now starting to be the problem again.
So in many ways, you really haven't broken free then.
You're not broken.
If I can add on here again, when I think it would be a good idea, I don't think it's an answer to the entire situation, Isha, but in today's day and age, a lot of your virtual tools available have replaced the need to travel.
Absolutely.
Just a platform like this one, to have people from all over the world join us this morning, is just a simple testimony. So my recommendation, Nisha, is going to be step out, explore. As a part of a large organization, we're actually not encouraging travel anymore. So you may have found yourself a sweet spot out there.
And if I may add, many of these technology tools are very, very reasonably priced or free. Right? So invest yourself, for example, in a good broadband connection at home. Get yourself a decent computer, get yourself a backup facility. Make sure you're a member of all the virtual collaborative tools that are available. Most of them are free. Set it up on your computer, know how to use them, and you're on it. Yeah.
Excellent. Brilliant. So I have a question here from Raghav. He has recently moved on from his role in an IT company. It's a takeoff from what we already heard, but slightly different. So he talks about the fact that he's a little shy. And therefore, how do I start to sell my capabilities, my credibility out there? I don't have too many professional contacts, and I think the shyness is probably adding to his woes. Any recommendations for him?
Glad you asked this question because a lot of us, including me, are shy at times. It's not that we are extrovert all the time. And therefore, a couple of suggestions I would have. One, for a moment, don't worry about you being shy. Second is, don't try to oversell or hard sell yourself. So when you meet somebody, don't immediately launch into the fact that you're on your own and you can offer these services and this is what you do and are there any opportunities? Because then people or organizations back. Just be yourself. But when you network, reach out to people. Just say hello to them and how things are. When you go to a conference or one of these forums that I talked about, make sure that you carry some visiting cards. Make sure you say hello to people, leave your contacts with them. If they do ask you what you do, make sure you have a short but not overbearing answer on them. Make sure that you don't try and do too many things. So try and leave people with maybe one or two offerings that you do.
Right.
Because remember, you're the only person, and one person cannot be God. You cannot be everything to everybody. So if you're good, let's say at executive coaching, say this is what I do. If you're good on running leadership workshops, say this is what I do. And leave that message with them. And believe me, sooner or later, people will come back to you. As for building contacts, all of us, you may not have hundreds of contacts, but I'm sure you have some contacts out there. Start with those. So if you, for example, log into a social media platform, reach out to contacts of contacts, or who are the contacts who are willing to help you. And you will soon find that even though you have a limited number of contacts, they will be the source of business.
So if I can then summarize for you, Raghav, it's not necessary for you to depend on your professional contacts. What I hear Mohan say is dig into your personal relationships.
Absolutely.
And 6 degrees of separation is what will really work for you.
Wait.
So Invest in those relations, invest in getting to know people through relationships that you're already comfortable with.
And you know, sometimes I get this feedback from people that only if you are a good salesperson and you know how to talk well, you can break free. Not necessarily true at all. End of the day, I think if you're just yourself, you reach out to organizations, tell them what you do, and do that well, the customers will come. So you don't have to be that, you know, number one salesman to build jobs for yourself.
So look, I'm not really sure that, but I want to bounce an idea off you. For someone like Raghav or some of the other participants you've heard earlier, so uncomfortable, shy, no contacts, is it a good idea for them to break free together, which is double up strengths, partner with someone, probably not go down the journey alone, but do it as a pair?
I think that's a wonderful idea. There's one thing that I did was because I work over Bangalore, and sometimes you may find similar-minded people in other cities.
Right.
So you can form an informal network, and you can say that if somebody known to you in the network finds an organization that needs somebody like me in Bangalore, then pass on the lead to me, and vice versa. So therefore, you're sort of casting your marketing net wider. The second thing you can do is get out there onto the internet. There are platforms that help put professionals and organizations together.
Right.
Reach out to them. Make sure that you put your profile onto them and diligently follow up with those platforms. And you will inevitably find that they will be generating leads, generating possible opportunities for you. For example, even at Kelpachar, I do find a lot of such opportunities coming in. And nothing prevents you from registering yourself, making sure that you look at these opportunities, and within a short period of time, you'll find yourself in line for fulfilling some of these opportunities.
So there you go, Raghav. Get yourself an ally. An ally could be a buddy, a shadow, a like-minded person, or just a marketplace like Kelp. You don't have to go down this journey on your own.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I have an equally interesting question from Jaya. She's a freelance professional, and she's talking about her struggle with pricing. How do I figure out that magic right price?
I guess there are three parts to it. The three C's that they say, right? So the first is the customer. How much is the customer thinking about paying for your services? Now, sometimes customers might indicate. Sometimes you could ask them, right? Sometimes they may not tell you. Then we go to the second two C's, competition. What would competition charge for a similar assignment? And most of us, once we are in this business, have a fair idea of what somebody in competition might charge for a half-day workshop or a 2-hour executive coaching, etc. And if that also fails you, then go back to the third C, which is cost. Now, here is where the example that I gave you to start off, we can set you going. Look at what you would have charged if you had been a full-time working professional in an organization. You know your market value. You know roughly what is the CTC you get. Convert it to an hourly CTC. Multiply by a factor depending on the utilization you think you will achieve. So, for example, if you are busy half your time, that means if you work, let's say, out of 150 hours in a month, you get work for 75 hours, multiply it by 2. That's a good point to start pricing. You might have to be flexible, especially when you start. Don't be too rigid on pricing. And here is where I've come across people who are quite particular that I must charge this and no less.
Right.
Now, frankly, I am one who wants to build a market share in lieu of just getting the margin that I want. So if I were you and I was starting off in this journey, try and build those first few customers by being a little flexible on pricing. Once you have got those set of customers, you might want to decide how you want to price it going forward. Because remember, you're also getting better and better at it as you go ahead.
You can use that as a baseline.
Absolutely.
Something interesting, trivia, again not recommended for first timers, but I have come across an interesting model of pay as you perceive.
Yes.
So those who are a lot stronger in the financial aspect is not really the driver, have moved into an area where they give services more money and left it to the customer to allow them to pay as they perceive. So you have to be prepared for both sides.
Yes, you have to be prepared. There are times when I've gone back to the customer and said, what do you think I should be charging? Because usually, after a couple of interactions, you know the customer well. And the customer looks upon you as somebody he wants to engage with. So the customer usually gives you a ballpark figure. This is what I think you should be charging. Now you can take that figure. Now if you are asking a customer, be prepared to take the figure the customer gives. So if the customer tells you that I think you should be charging 40,000 a day and you want to be charging say 50,000, I think that won't work. You have to work at 40,000, right? So when you're asking a client, be prepared to take the number the client wants. There's another interesting model that's coming up. I wouldn't suggest it if it's your first assignment, but if it's multiple assignments that you already experienced, is to link part of your payment to the benefit that the customer derives. By outcomes. Now, this is becoming more popular. So an example is, suppose you're somebody who's helping an organization in an industry like hospitality, and you are helping them build up a market base. So they are a hotel or a restaurant or somebody who's wanting to build a market share, and you are helping them in the marketing activity. You might tell them that I will charge you a certain flat minimum fee and the balance linked to the increase in revenue that they experience. Now, obviously, two things come in here. One, you should be confident that your services will help them improve the revenue, because otherwise you don't get anything out of it, right? And two, you must be confident that the customer is transparent about the figures they take. But by and large, my experience with organizations are 99 plus of the time, organizations are transparent with what they do. Don't worry about the 1% who might not tell you the truth. 99 out of 100 of us want to do business in a transparent way. So just go after them.
But what a wonderful way to build trust and credibility.
Absolutely. Organizations by and large trust you.
I have a really interesting question from Devaki. She's again a freelancer. And she asks probably that one question that's deep down within all of us. How do I know when it's time for me to throw in my hat, give up, because it's not my cup of tea?
Okay, there are, I guess, a couple of push factors and a couple of pull factors. So let me look at the pull factors first. One, most importantly, you must be attracted to going on. Which means you must be attracted by factors like I want to do something different, I want to learn, I want to upgrade myself, and I want to have flexibility of timing and flexibility of what I do. Right? So those are the pull factors. There could be push factors from organizations. For example, some of us in certain organizations are laid off. Let's face it, this is also the time that there could be organizations who tell you one day that maybe your position is irrelevant. I wouldn't worry too much if I were in a position that you are. I would say that it's fine. I don't think you should be bitter to the organization about it. I think you should just put it back behind you and move ahead and look forward positively. Maybe you can even go back to the same organization and say, can I work with you as a part-time association? So one push factor could be being laid off. Another push factor could be you just don't feel like going to office. You get up in the morning and you wonder why another day has come. You go to the office, you don't know what you're going to do the next 8 hours. You find you're just not doing anything different. It becomes monotonous. I think that's a clear push factor. And the third push factor would be that you are experiencing pressure from all quarters and you're just not able to satisfy anybody. Neither is your boss happy with what you do, nor are people at home happy with what you do, nor are friends happy. So who are you pleasing at the end of the day? It's like trying to give everybody half a meal and nobody is satisfied. If that is the push factor, I think it's time for you to take it.
So just the last question then. I flip this around. Same thing, Mohan. I'm now a BreakFree. How do I know that's not my cup of tea? When it's time for me to go back into a formal institution?
I think I I'd probably say this is determined by the results you see and the efforts that you put in. So what I mean is that let's say after 6 months or even after 12 months, you are finding you're not getting the results, which means you're not billing, you're not building customers, you're struggling, and the nest egg that you built up is slowly dwindling, right? Then I think you should, at some stage, just as you said that I am getting out to the deadline, say that I was getting out of breaking free with the deadline. And say that if it doesn't work in the next 90 days or next 180 days, I'm going to reach out to those consultants and look for a full-time career. So that's number one. The second is when the efforts don't keep you going. You find breaking free was not your cup of tea when you find you need people. You need to talk to somebody all day long. You need somebody to push you. You need organizational deadlines. You need organizational pressure on you. And you find this is not working. Then I think again you need to put a deadline and say, I perhaps will be going back. And I think nothing is permanent in life. So if you say that, I've broken free today, and after 6 months or 12 months decide that's not your cup of tea, nothing stops you from going back. This is not a permanent change. So you could very well pull out that resume that you had at the time of breaking free, update it, talk about some of the experiences that you had when you were free. Don't be apologetic about them because they have taught you a lot. And use that when you approach the next possible employer.
This journey of breaking free, both ways, entering as well as exiting, takes a lot of introspection, takes a lot of courage, and remember to have your family rally around you because they're very important. Both ways, entering as well as exiting. This has been fantastic, Mohan. I'm already brimming over with several ideas, and I can imagine participants here would love to continue this conversation. So here's an invitation. Continue to keep in touch with this group. You can write in, you can follow us on Twitter as well as Facebook. This conversation doesn't need to end here. So before we sign off, moderator, if you could move on to the next slide, please. On the screen in front of you, you've got contact details as well as handles. Kelp HR big thank you to you for creating a platform like this and for helping us continue this discussion. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening in.